So in many relationships, we experience both jealousy and envy.
And while this can be common, the way we manage these emotions is not always healthy. So during his last segment, Dr. Michael Walker discussed ways to deal with jealousy in our relationships. Today, he's back to share ways that we deal with envy. Dr. Walker, thank you so much for joining us again this morning.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Okay, so we know jealousy, envy are very different. Can you break down, where does envy come from?
Yes, so just remind folks, jealousy is when you fear you're going to lose something, and then envy is when you resent someone for something that they have that you may not have or that you want to have, right?
And so how can we manage envy for starters?
Yeah, well, first of all, we have to realize there's kind of three different types of envy. So there's benign envy, and that's when we wish we had someone else's traits, attributes, or parts of their life. Then there's emulative envy, and that's when you try to emulate or copy someone else. And then there's this last one, which is the researchers talk about malicious envy. And that's when you hope for someone's downfall or failure, really in the hope that it will bring light to or shine your light brighter versus others.
Pray and pray on my downfall. Okay, so let's break down that first one. Break down that first one you were talking about. How do we manage that? How do we manifest that or stay away from that, get away from that?
Yeah, well, first of all, we have to really kind of own it within ourselves, right? Because it's hard to really to have people understand about envy, right? So we have to own it with ourselves because it may be harder for us to share it with others. So first, at least admit it to yourself that you may be feeling envious, and then you got to determine where is that coming from. In the research and when therapists work with folks, they also know that envious can stem from your childhood experiences. So sometimes it's a lack of maybe praise from your parents or caregivers that you had.
And so how do you navigate when you have a partner who is showing envy towards you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the first step is they have to share it with themselves, and then they have to kind of come to you. First thing we should know is that we should not criticize or retaliate that envious trait with them, because that will, tear down the communication. So once we can do that, then we need to reassure our partner that we hear them and that we want to commit to figuring out how we can work and manage through this. We also want to take time to help them explore where this may be coming from and try to reframe the issue if needed, right? Because, this is a normal emotion that we have, and really we want to encourage them that their feelings count, and we are really trying to build their relationship and the fact that we are a team and not separate.
You talked about that last point when it came to being envious, and that is really preying on someone's downfall. This to me sounds like this is the worst of all types of being envy. When it comes to that, are there ways that you should when should you, first off, recognize that in yourself, but then two, how do you address that? Because that can be really, really detrimental to you and the people around you.
It definitely can be, and that's the strategy where you have to really try to connect with this person, especially if they're in your circle and if they're your partner, right? And that's where those lines of communication must be opened up. Because at the end of the day, again, reassuring them that we're not in competition with each other. We are a partnership, and we are trying to grow and learn together. Exactly. We are a team. And so, again, trying to really settle them on that aspect to let them know that we're not against each other. We're here to better each other. And then finding out what are some things that you're interested in so that I can help you grow and advance in your area, right? Too often, sometimes we can get self-centered, and so we only focus on ourselves. But remember, when you are in a relationship and in a marriage, you have to remember that you all are coming together as a unit. And so how do you also build that other person up as well? So it will take some time, but you have to reassure them that you're willing to do that work and figure it out.
When you say it's also important to recognize that it is okay to have some of these feelings too, like this is typical, this is part of life.
Yeah, for sure, right? We all have these emotions and feelings. The best thing about it is recognizing it and then figuring out how to work through them. And too often we try to do it alone, and that can be helpful sometimes, but there also needs to be the fact that you need to communicate this with somebody. If you have a therapist, if you have a life coach, you can utilize that person, but really you can utilize your partner in your relationship that can help you get through these things as well. And that's really important.
Dr. Walker, as always, we appreciate your time and your insight. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.